7:47, you're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. I'm going to start you with the Irish Examiner this morning, and I mentioned there are a couple of stories that dominate the back pages this morning, and this man is very much one of them here. The finishing line, it says here, Mark O'Shea and John Dively paid tribute to the retiring Dublin legend, Bernard Brogan, and there isn't any question about that. He was there through the dark days, that's for sure. So plenty of thoughts on him inside. The manner of Ireland's World Cup exit was so bad on many levels, writes Ronald O'Gara in his regular Friday column there as well, and plenty more inside. Bernard Brogan dominates a lot of the newspapers this morning. Owen, a man who tormented many the Kerry defender in his day. Yeah, and Mayo defender, I think it's fair to say, like, probably brought his best against those two opposition, I would have thought. Like, it's hard, it's kind of tough to pick out what exactly was the peak moment of Bernard Brogan's career, because so often you might think to yourself 2010 might have been when Bernard Brogan peaked, and then you think to yourself actually it was 2013 when Bernard Brogan peaked. And like, I guess for somebody to be at the very top of his game for those 4 full seasons really is fairly exceptional in my opinion. Maybe 2012 there might have been a little bit of a drop off, but like certainly the other 3, this is a person who could be looked at as the best forward in the country at the time, or certainly there was a bit of an argument. I suppose he came into prominence at a time when Dublin were struggling, so not only did he have to come through with just pure brilliance in terms of being a top-class shooting forward for his team, he also had to come through with kind of a professionalism and an attitude towards success that a lot of the Dubs around him just didn't have, because they hadn't been All-Ireland winners. And to come from that base and to take them to an All-Ireland winning team and to become one of the greatest teams of all time, possibly the greatest team of all time, that's something seriously special. So, yeah, you wish him well in his retirement. It's no surprise really that it's happened, and you just imagine how tough it might have been for him over the last couple of years. Well, he was in a few weeks ago, and he was saying that at that point, I'm going to sit down with Jim. I think at that point he was saying maybe later in the week. It was on the radar anyway, and like, I don't know what you're hoping for from that conversation. I'm sure you're looking at both eventualities, one of them being Jim saying to him, listen, we've still got a relatively young group and you still have something to offer. You're not going to see a huge amount of game time, but we'd love to have you around the place. And whether that would be enough for him to put himself through another year of it, given, you know, the tough 12 months he's just had. You suspect that maybe that after the first game where he wasn't included in the squad, that might have been formed part of us thinking that, like, this Dublin team, really no matter what you think, they are going to win 3 of the next 5 All-Irelands. Might be worth hanging around for a while. And then, but obviously getting back into the squad then, it was like, right, well, actually this definitely is my swan song now. I'm going to get on the pitch, whether I feature or not, I'm going to get on the pitch at some point in the end and get the obligatory photograph with the kids in my full gear. I'm not going to have to do a John Terry on it. But even as a style of a player, like, he was really somebody that stood out. I know, like, you hear Kieran Donaghy talk about having, late in his career, having conversations with Colin Cooper about how to, you know, the different goal scoring styles, like taking the net out of it versus the nice little stroke into the goal when it comes to it. And he was definitely that type of player who would have the capacity to open his body, and like, he wasn't the sort of player who was going to be drilling that ball home. He had such an unbelievable level of skill about him. Yeah, he did. Like, the one attraction for him, I'd say, in terms of him staying on would have been to actually get another All-Ireland medal and to get to 8. Like, to finish up on 7. He might have been looking around at a point in his career thinking to himself, if I can just hang on in and say if I make it to the end of 2019 getting minutes, then perhaps if I fade into the background then, I'm sure he wasn't thinking this way, but if I fade into the background then and perhaps manage to pick up a medal or 2 as a sub, then I can potentially become one of the first footballers to get to 9 All-Ireland football medals. But that wasn't the case. Like, it was always going to be clear that this year he was going to finish up. And when he talked about style, it was very striking the way he played football. He didn't need much space. He needed no space at all. He could do a bit of everything, and like, at times he was the beating heart of a forward line, whereas now you've got a Dublin team where they just have a full forward line that could possibly go down as one of the greatest attacking lines we've seen in football, especially the way you've got Rock, O'Callaghan and Mannion playing at the moment, whereas 6-7 years ago you're thinking to yourself, what is the Dublin full forward line? Bernard Brogan and 2 others, and that's not the case right now. So he represents the perfect transition of Dublin from a team of mavericks to an absolute machine, which is what they are now. A machine made up of hugely talented players, don't get me wrong, but he was instrumental in that change as well. Like, Pat Gilroy takes a lot of credit, Jim Gavin obviously takes a lot of credit, but having a player like Bernard Brogan to actually be the personification of Gilroy's thoughts on the pitch in that transition from the chaos years, as it was put in that book last year, to the dominant years. That's what the legacy of Bernard Brogan is for me.
The Irish Times this morning leads with the Europa League, and great picture of Anthony Martial there. Martial on the spot to give United win in Belgrade. They beat Partizan 1-0 last night. His penalty in the 43rd minute, clinching the points for them. Pepe scores 2 as Arsenal regain the upper hand. Visitors Vitoria take the lead, but 2 free kicks save home side's blushes. Pretty incredible stuff from Nicolas Pepe from free kicks last night. And you've also got Celtic's win against Lazio last night, and Derry aiming to finish the job and clinch European place. That's on the SSE Electricity League. And then Jerry Thornley in Tokyo saying New Zealand have what it takes to survive a mighty collision. And then Jones urges England to knock All Blacks off their perch.
Yeah, that little war of words has been kind of interesting this week. The Irish Daily Star this morning, Goodbye to the Hill, is the banner up here with that photograph of Bernard Brogan after the Ireland final this year. Jim Gavin's thoughts on that there as well from Carlo Kane. And Vinnie Murphy saying Brogan going could leave Dubs lacking leaders. I mean, I think that's a bit of a stretch, to be fair. Kerr is open to return, writes Paul Lennon here. These are comments from the former Republic of Ireland manager who was on Virgin Sport Media during Virgin Media Sport during the week, talking about that if the call did come from the FAI, it's something he would be open to. Some interesting quotes. He says, if and when the association has the board sorted out and they get a new CEO at that stage, if they decide that if somebody with a bit of authority wanted to talk to me about a possible role, or otherwise if they decide they didn't want to, then that's their prerogative. I'll have no problem whatsoever giving opinions and discussing the various elements of it. Talks about there's a good line in one of them about Noel Mooney, and he says he should stop doing a lot of interviews essentially and get on about appointing a new CEO is what he says. He's not been impressed. Noel Mooney's been on the circuit over the last couple of weeks doing various interviews and I suppose trying to shine a light on the job that he's doing, but I mean he's departing in about 2 weeks' time. I don't know, it's all a bit bizarre. The whole thing's still a little bit bizarre for me in a way that I don't know. Brian Kerr is saying stop doing the interviews, get about your business, there's stuff to be done, there's a board to be appointed, there's a new CEO to be brought in, unless it's a bit of a play on Noel Mooney's part to, you know, he's very much been saying that's not a job I'm interested in, I'm not into it, but I'm sure if somebody was to, you know, come and try to rubber arm him into it, that will be a conversation to be had. So unless it's a play in that regard, I really don't know, but interesting timing, I suppose, would be my observation on it. Also, Brand Aid is the reflection on last night's game of the Europa League. Youngster Williams comes to Ole's rescue.
Party time reads the headline on the back page of the Mirror this morning. Ole hails United's brave kids as Martial ends long away jinx. And Gavin hails Brogan, a leader who inspired all around him. And you've got the Brian Kerr story as well. Forget media, Noel, and do your job. It's fairly ruthless stuff from Brian Kerr, responding to a man who literally said 24 hours previously, I'll beg you to come back. It's like a fairly, a cutting ex who will not text you back, basically. Brian Kerr is not...
Stop texting me.
Yeah, stop. Go on about your life.
Get on your life, exactly.
Move on. Don't be texting me, Noel. And that's kind of the sense I get. You can kind of, like... You can see where Brian Kerr is coming from here, without question. Like, the person who's in charge of the FAI for the moment should be going on about this. But I'm sure Noel Mooney perhaps meant well when he was coming out and literally saying, I'm begging you to come back.
Well, I don't know what he meant, I suppose, is the thing. Like, nobody knows actually what he means, because I think that from a PR point of view, having Brian Kerr back at the FAI would be the best coup that they could possibly have, right? So what the motivation for it is, I really don't know, but and I'm none the wiser having listened to a couple of those podcasts about what his motivation for coming out and doing those pieces is. We shall see what happens over the next few weeks. The Irish Independent on this Friday morning is a great photograph of Kieran McGeehan, who just happens to be in mid-stride there on the edge of a cliff. But I mean, it's a lovely photograph. Let's not take away from that. McGeehan hails USADA probe into disgraced coach Salazar. Writes Carl Dennehy here. Kieran McGeehan again stating her fulsome stance behind anti-doping in athletics. That's that story there. And then Martin Breheny and Colin Keys writing about Galway weighing up bid for Kieran Carey. An interesting line here. The former Limerick star could land tribesman job there, right, after leading Patrickswell to Shannon's side title. This is a bit of a left field one that's obviously coming hot on the foot of Davy Fitz signing up again with Wexford. He's one of the favourites obviously to get that Galway job. And then you had Franny Ford and Noel Larkin who were planning a joint. There had been a plan for a joint appointment around the two lads, withdrawn their candidacy in the last couple of weeks too. So Kieran Carey, the almost unlikely candidate in some regards for a team that I mean, I find it incredible that for a team that are maybe third favourites to win the All-Ireland are really struggling big time to appoint a manager.
Yeah, it's been a disastrous half-season for Galway, hasn't it? They need to get that sorted now. Like, I mean, what are we? November is the start of the GAA season traditionally, so they basically need to get this done in the next week, or you're kind of losing time. I think they've already lost time.
They've already lost time.
To be honest, like, club seasons are wrapping up everywhere, and that is part of your reconnaissance mission. Fair enough if you're actually based inside in the county and you're like, well, it's second nature to me. I know who all the club players are. I know who are in form. But like, Kieran Carey's been looking after a club in a different county. He's not exactly got all the ins and outs of Galway club hurling going on in terms of his view. So I don't know. It doesn't look great. I think Carey is obviously would be a great appointment. I think for most counties, he's going to be in an immediately difficult position if he ends up taking that job, and hopefully things work out for him if he does end up taking that job and becomes Galway manager. Back page of the Sun is one for the road. Ole's away drought is over. Frank ban aid. Chelsea are confident their transfer ban will be lifted, and they are preparing to sign players in January. You've got news here as well of Kieran Lucid's All-Ireland League consortium enlisting Intercube to put together a new database proposal for a new league. The Dutch company helped UEFA redesign the Champions League and Europa League in the past. And Willie Mullins has called on Supreme Horse Racing Club to get their house in order after the syndicate's account was frozen by Horse Racing Ireland.
The Irish Daily Mail this morning, get to work, Kerr takes aim at FAI but is open to offers, is the story there by Philip Quinn, we mentioned for you a couple of minutes ago. And King of the Hill bows out by Michael Clifford in reaction to Bernie Brogan.
The London Times leads with a picture of Owen Farrell here. The headline reads, Jones's rallying cry, let's get ready to rumble. And Pepe rescues Arsenal. Meanwhile, record signing scores 2 free kicks in 3-2 Europa win. And Leicester, 1 year on, how tragedy of owner's death made club stronger.
The Irish Sun this morning, one for the road, is more reflections on Anthony Martial back for United last night and back among the goals as well. Ole's away drought is over as United beat Partizan Belgrade by a goal to nil.
I just did that a moment ago. Back page of the Herald is Jim saying Dublin are truly grateful. So that's Jim Gavin, obviously, leaving tributes to Brogan after retirement from 15 years in blue. And Pepe saves Gunners as Celts slay Lazio. A couple of more back pages here, I think. We've gone through some of them. Eddie Jones's photo, his mug on back of a lot of the papers. They've got a special Rugby World Cup semi-final supplement in the Telegraph today, and on the main sports section, let's knock them off their perch. Jones tells England to change rugby history by beating New Zealand. First time in 20 years they're going to meet at a Rugby World Cup. Dethrone the All Blacks and change history, Jones urges England. And you've got a picture there as well of Nicholas Pepe and Matteo Guendouzi celebrating Arsenal's winner against Victoria last night at the Emirates Stadium. And then the Racing Post, their rugby stories on the back. On top of the world, 2-time champions All Blacks primed to edge England once again.
That is the newspapers on this Friday morning. Very good.
Sure is.